Today, I'm here with Devon, principal of Frank Nicholas Middle School. I just want to ask you a few questions about ability grouping. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I believe so.
Um, with the school that you're principal at, would you use this method with your students?
We currently do. Yeah. Um,
So are there
so
like red birds and blue birds, so like people who are of the high ability, and then students for the low ability, but you use them with different labels so it doesn't like hurt the feelings or anything like that?
pretty much, but when we make it, it's kind of a, I would say a twist on ability grouping. We make it flexible ability groups, if that means. So we call it flexible grouping instead of ability grouping, but it is still based off of ability. But it isn't the same way it was when I was a child, where if you were in that red bird group or that blue bird group, and you just stayed in that red bird group or blue bird group, and we let that predict uh, your future. With ability grouping that's flexible, it could be like you as a student. So you have strong points within algebra, where you easily flew through one-step equations, and then when we got to two-step equations, you started to have trouble. So we would group you according to that skill. So for a week until you got two-step equations, we may have you in a group of students that are also struggling with two-step equations, and then you could return to another group once we move to a different concept. But it changes. We do it bi-weekly. So we look at our data and we look at standards, and we change those groups according to the skills and the needs of the students bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm. So, do you find any problems with ability grouping?
I do. Some kids, some kids and some teachers, I would say, at times we tend to keep some of the same students in ability groups for too long of periods.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we think that if they're struggling in one subject, they may be struggling in another. So I think we at times as adults we form our own biases. So those are some of the problems that I've seen. But I think it is a way that I've learned to meet students' individual needs um, a lot better than putting them all in one class and having to differentiate a lesson and reach the needs of seven different ability groups in one classroom.
Um,
Seven or more. I just gave seven as a random number.
okay. With ability grouping, do you feel that the lower ability students will ever be equal in academic ability to the higher ability students due to more attention to the lower ability than there is to the higher ability students? Do you feel that would be equal or on the same level of academic ability?
Yeah, I do. I do. Using an example like I used before, it kind of shows kids um, just because you didn't get something at that particular time or you aren't strong in that particular standard, that you do have other strengths. So as long as they aren't kept in those ability groups or low ability group for a long period of time, I think they definitely have the confidence that they can recover and learn and get where they need to be. So I think it does damage if they stay in one group. I think permanently or for too long of a period.
Okay. What about career grouping, which is basically basing kids or students based off of what they want to be? So me, I would want to be in a mechanical engineering group, electrical engineering group, or you could have it as a whole as engineering group, or the law field or the doctor field. Have you ever heard of this, and what do you feel about it? Have you ever seen it in any other schools?
Um, yeah, I have, and most of my studies that I've done with that, I did some teaching in Belize in Central America, and they had a system that was somewhat like that. I guess I think it's a good idea, but it goes back to that debate many times of age-old debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington when we're looking at specifically students that are underrepresented in fields, and many times those students being minority students. Um, Sometimes kids peak at different times. So when is that opportune time to put a student on a track for a career, and who has the power to place those kids in those careers becomes my fear or my question. So whereas you may have the aptitude to be an engineer, if I didn't have your best interest in mind, and in the 6th grade, I could say, looking at your skill set, maybe I may guide you into being a mechanic. And not that being a mechanic is wrong, but you may also have the aptitude to be an engineer. So that becomes my decision. And the teacher has a lot to do with that. So that puts the teacher in a scary place to me. When you're looking in the United States and we're looking at the backgrounds of many of the teachers that we have that don't represent the population of students that they teach, and trying to remove their biases from that situation.
Do you think there's any way that we can make it to where teachers don't have control and students have full control over what they want to be in their studies in high school?
Yeah, I guess going back to what you had asked me before about careers, it would be in a standardized test format,
Okay.
where it's you didn't test into engineering, so you may not get into that program. So then you're going to have to choose another career based on a test. But again, the problem becomes, to me, when students peak, when students get serious, or how much exposure they've had to academics and various, careers prior to coming to school.
Would you let them choose regardless of a standardized test or a teacher approving it? Would you just let them choose based off of only if they said they want to do it? Just the students?
It would depend on how old the student was.
Okay, this would be starting at high school.
Starting high school. So
this applies only in high school.
So theoretically, you're saying a student that struggles in math and hasn't seen much success, would I allow him to choose a career that is math based, and to fail or succeed into that?
Would you believe that it's right to not have your opinion or your approval relevant, or I
see what you mean. That would be difficult. I mean, when I was a teacher, of course, the students that I worked with, I worked closely with them, and I wanted them to push themselves, but also realistically look at careers and matching their academic abilities with passion and with the work. So, yeah, I guess in a Rousseauian way, letting them learn on their own. Would I be comfortable with that? It would depend on the setting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And last question: would you make any edits to tracking or flexible tracking? Would you make any edits that? Would you make any edits to it, or do you think that is perfect and there's nothing better than flexible tracking?
No, I don't think it definitely isn't perfect. I've seen many situations where people grow by being with students that are succeeding, and watching a student that is achieving more academic success than you are. So, being in proximity to those students many times helps others to step up. They don't get that opportunity if everyone in their ability group isn't there. So that's a difficult question. I think it's working in this current school where I am, as long as we continue to bi-weekly revisit what we're doing and the successes and the failures that we're having with students, and then go back, shake it up, and mix them up again, and we don't leave the kids in there. It's a lot of work, and it's difficult, but right now, in the setting where I am and the grades that we have, no, I'm not interested in making too many tweaks.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.